Alright, so this video has been about maybe 2.5, 3 weeks in the making, mostly because I kept rewriting and to get more of a positive type of outlook in the video rather than just me stomping on AMD for something that I feel like they can pretty easily fix. So, what am I going on about? Well, mostly it's driver frustration in the process of reviewing the RX 480. So one of the things that I discovered you can do with the card is turn it into compute mode. By default, it's in like gaming mode or game mode or something like that. And you can turn it to compute mode, which means you have access to the full capabilities of the card for things like cryptocurrency mining and OpenCL compute algorithms, which is something I'm actually working on developing. Sorry, I just got distracted for a second. I can hear my guinea pigs outside just running around for whatever reason. Either way, let's get back on track. So one of the things that I discovered is when it's in compute mode, you can still technically play games, but it is really buggy. And I don't mean buggy as in like there are textures that aren't showing up or like there are models that aren't showing up. No, it's like the whole system just blue screens and crashes because of a GPU driver issue. I wish I had video of it doing it, but whenever I try to record it, it just doesn't do it. It's like that when you bring your car to a mechanic and it does it for you, but it doesn't do it for the mechanic. So the mechanic's like, what the hell are you going on about? But it's demonstratable and it's repeatable. I just haven't gotten a recording of it yet. If I do get a recording of it, I'll include it in the video, and this usually happens during gameplay of games that are built on DirectX 12, which is a whole other topic in and of itself because for the RX 480, it's a GCN 4.0 card, which means it's using basically a revised version of GCN, which was back in 2012, I want to say. But either way, it's an old architecture and it just doesn't scale as well, I would say, with the current driver support at least, because I remember AMD cards used to be ahead actually in DX12, which was a couple years ago, but I think NVIDIA is kind of caught up, especially with DirectX 12 Ultimate. But man, it just gives me so many second guesses of wanting to switch to AMD because believe me, I want to switch to an AMD card. But if it's going to be this experience where my whole system crashes, especially if I'm in the middle of working on something, that's not something that I can particularly afford sometimes, especially when I'm working on school stuff. If I'm working on a lab, for example, and my whole system crashes and I just lose all that work, I just lost all that work and I have to redo the entire thing. And the same thing is with stuff like videos and for other personal projects where if my system somehow crashes, I could potentially lose hours of work. And it just makes me hesitant to switch over to an AMD card, even though I want to very badly. The thing about the GPU market right now is that when you look at things from an actual sales perspective, AMD is light years behind what NVIDIA is selling in terms of actual volume of their cards. This could be because AMD wants to prioritize CPU. In fact, that's probably what's going on as they're diverting all their wafer supply to CPU. Because of that, I feel like their GPU division hasn't gotten as much love from them, from like the executives, which is kind of disappointing because then stuff like this happens with the driver issues, which has been a whole thing in and of itself. It's been a whole epic saga that AMD has been battling for years now. If you remember the term aging like fine wine, which was saying that AMD cards age better because their driver support gets better over time, which is kind of funny, but I think it also has something to do with the fact that CUDA, which is what NVIDIA writes their stuff on, is so much more widely adopted in the market that people can discover issues and can report them to NVIDIA. Whereas because AMD isn't selling as many GPUs, the amount of feedback that they're able to get, and think of it like something like launching a video game, where in development you may not notice these bugs, but when you let it out into the wild, all of a sudden thousands of or millions of bugs come in from a bunch of different things that you weren't either expecting or didn't even figure to test. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the hardware from AMD is perfectly adequate and is actually beyond capable. The only thing that's disappointing about it is the driver support and the amount of, not necessarily effort, but just the amount of community embracing the AMD standards, such as like OpenCL. It's just unfortunate because I feel like these cards have a ton of potential, but they're just being let down by poor software, which is kind of unfortunate, but at the end of the day, it's something that is fixable, so I'm hoping that AMD can kind of get the hatches battened down and just kind of let everything mature a little bit, even though the RX 480's been maturing for a few years now. So I'm hoping AMD can fix this. I'm sure they can. If Intel can fix it, I'm sure AMD can. If Nvidia can fix it, I'm sure AMD can. So at the end of the day, this will eventually get fixed, but I'm hoping it's soon because this is kind of frustrating on my part.